While the Inquisitor doubts whether human political institutions can manipulate people and their environment as well as the Church can, he is not in basic disagreement with this modern view. He emphasizes that it is the fear he causes, as well as the Church's ability to make people voluntarily redistribute goods, which makes him superior to any institution that is perceived by the unwashed masses to be simply man-made. The Inquisitor believes that he can exploit people's religious belief to more effectively control their minds, hearts, and bellies. He claims, quote, "They will understand themselves at last, that freedom and bread enough for all are inconceivable together, for never, never will they be able to share between them." End quote. In other words, the Inquisitor predicts the failure of social experiments not based explicitly on religion, such as socialism or communism. He then proceeds to tell Christ why he thinks the Church is better equipped to keep people in line and make them truly happy. That is, better equipped to play what we have come to consider the role of the state. People have certain deeply felt needs, the Inquisitor says. They crave worship, but they wish above all to worship something immediately before them, something they can see and whose impact they can feel, such as himself and his organization. They need a sense of community in this worship. That is, they want the feeling of unity and equality and the assurance that follows that their beliefs and obedience are sound. Next, it is necessary to appease their conscience, to give them a purpose, because it is true that man cannot live by bread alone. Man must have convictions, goals. For both of these, the religious doctrine the Church provides is ideal. In the second temptation, as related by the Inquisitor, Satan suggests that Christ cast himself down from a cliff so that God's angels can save him, thereby displaying God's great power in order to awe men into obedience. Christ, of course, refuses this temptation as well, and the Inquisitor's interpretation of his refusal is probably correct. Christ did not want human beings to rely on a mighty and continuous display of miracles for their faith. But the Inquisitor questions not only the value of that kind of faith, but also its practicality. Quote, "Thou didst choose what was utterly beyond the strength of men, come to give thy life for them. Instead of taking possession of men's freedom, thou didst increase it, and burden the spiritual kingdom of mankind with its sufferings together." End quote. If Christ would have respected mankind less, the Inquisitor argues, he would have actually loved them more. To love mankind, according to the Inquisitor, is to lighten their burden, both physically and psychologically or spiritually. They are burdened by want as well as by guilt, and what they need is for both burdens to be lifted. The third temptation is, quote, "the sword of Caesar," end quote. The Inquisitor claims that Satan offered Christ the political power to rule the earth, but again, Christ declined in favor of voluntary faith. He remarks that the Church has corrected his work and founded it on, quote, "miracle, mystery, and authority," end quote. We know by the rest of what the Inquisitor says that he is referring first of all to the Church's ability to basically do as Christ had done, multiplying loaves and fishes, but doing so by facilitating redistribution of the people's own goods, not by a true miracle. The Church also has the power to forgive sins, to absolve people with a few words and gestures, leaving the people in a perfect state of innocence. Likewise, the Church is able to awe people through its mysterious powers and rights, as well as with its authority backed up by brute force. The Inquisitor therefore depicts government, in this case the government of the Church, as capable of filling all human needs, emotional, spiritual, and physical. As shown in this story, in its quest to make men totally peaceful and happy, government can become as repressive as the Spanish Inquisition. Such repression is justified for the good of the people who are incapable of taking care of or governing themselves. The Inquisitor's view is an extreme but thoroughly modern view of human nature and the role of government. People are selfish and self-interested. They will never be able to share unless some institution can awe them into sharing, taking their bread away from them and giving it back in equal measure. People crave worship, but worship of something close at hand. They want a sense of unity, and this need for unity goes hand in hand with their distaste for responsibility. They do not want to make decisions on their own. There is safety and assurance in numbers. All this the modern state can provide. We have seen that Dostoyevsky, through the Inquisitor, alludes to mankind's later attempts to base politics soundly on human reason. Dostoyevsky might as well have referred to liberalism as well as socialism in this regard. Certainly he is calling attention to the attitude, developed during the Enlightenment, that human reason will someday be able to explain all problems and cure all social ills. The modern faith in science is part of this faith in reason, and with it comes an incredible optimism concerning the state as the highest human organization based on human reason. But the Inquisitor warns that mankind will come face to face with, quote, insoluble mysteries, end quote. Secrets that cannot be cracked, problems that cannot be solved. He is suggesting that human reason and science alone may not be able to totally conquer nature. He might as well have added that reason, on the whole, would create many new problems as it had solved old problems. The Inquisitor then suggests that people will either destroy themselves with their knowledge, or they will come crawling back to the church. The implication is that only religion, in the hands of the authoritative church, will be able to set people's minds at ease concerning insoluble mysteries. Indeed, religion can fill that need. Religion, belief in a higher power, gives mankind a framework in which man is not wholly responsible for what he does and what he is not able to do. A truly religious man would not place himself on God's throne, assuming that all of nature, human and animate and inanimate, was completely at his disposal. He would be able to accept more hardship, interpreting such difficulty as fate or God's will. He would be soothed by the belief in a higher order, which could assure him that all is truly right in the universe despite his particular problems, and that in any case, he would exist in a more perfect place after death. The Inquisitor's scheme adds another element to what by themselves are salutary effects of religious belief. By bringing God down to earth, so to speak, the Inquisitor can wield enormous power over not only men's bodies, but their minds. With his overpowering presence, he can take away not only some, but all individual responsibility for their actions. If men are forced into behaving in certain ways, there is no need for individual responsibility at all. Hence, the complete freedom from conscience the Inquisitor offers, as compared with the freedom of conscience Christ offers. Moreover, without the constant struggle with doubt and faith that characterizes belief and reliance upon an invisible God, a struggle which allows men's hearts and minds to remain free, that is, their inner selves, their convictions and beliefs, the individual is internally enslaved. He has no choice but to believe in the power of overwhelming and all-encompassing force. We might be tempted to claim that the Inquisitor was wrong about the church and the role of the church. Human beings, as a matter of fact, have not reverted to theocracy in vast numbers, but have continued to pursue political and economic progress on a variety of paths. They have brought nature more and more under their control, and up until now, they have avoided complete military or environmental disaster, though they have come perilously close. Indeed, there is hope that mankind is maturing to the extent that he may make conscious efforts to mitigate the negative effects of the scientific method and mind. But even if the Inquisitor's idea of the church has lost, has Christ's freedom really won the day? Human beings have not reverted to theocracy, to be sure, but do not millions of them relate to governments in much the way the Inquisitor describes his congregation relating to the power of the church? Do we not assume the people and their needs are much as the Inquisitor describes? I'll stop there Obviously, this piece is a little old. Theocracy is not dead, and that's something I might want to think about a bit more. But in this piece, I'm writing mainly about the Western world.